Thank you guys for coming today. Today's program is going to be presented by Karla Meeks. She's with the Longhorn Arena and Event Center. And she is going to be talking about all the things that they do out there, and they've really ramped up in the last couple of years on the things that they do. She's, she has been, Karla graduated from A&M Commerce with a bachelor's in social work, and she started out as a juvenile probation officer. Did that for 11 years before becoming the director of marketing for Glen Oaks Hospital. And then after 7 years with that, she began also working as a marketing manager for the mental health clinic at Greenville and the Longhorn Arena and Event Center. I want to thank this month's sponsor, who is Howard Davis. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to Karla.
All right, well, thank you guys for inviting me to come and tell you about our facility. We are quite unique in the fact that we have, if you've been over to our arena, there's no signs yet. We are getting a sign. It's going to be a nice, huge LED light sign, hopefully to say this is the Longhorn Arena and Event Center and the Mental Health Clinic of Greenville. So it's truly a dynamic. Dr. Ruth Whiteley and her husband Tim Ryan decided to extend their practices, one being the Mental Health Clinic of Greenville. It was located on Wesley Street. She's been here a very long time. Dr. Whiteley has been in practice for over 15 years, and we have some long-term counselors with us, so we have 7 total. So in the very front portion of our arena/clinic, that is the clinic area in the very front part, and then in the back part is a huge arena. And we opened in 2020. Isn't that great? Wonderful. And at that time.
Yeah.
And so the reason why we have an arena attached to the mental health clinic is that we do equine assisted therapy. And so if you know anything about like pet therapy, you think of like dogs with patients or clients that they groom the animals or they pet the animals while they're actually talking about something that was kind of difficult in their life for counseling purposes. And so we use that a lot with our kiddos. So instead of using a dog or a cat, we use horses. And so they're able to communicate very well, partially from your dogs and your cats. So a little bit about horses is they are not a prey animal. They are a prey animal, not a predator. And so when you think about that dynamic, they are actually reading us as humans because we are the prey. We are the predator. I'm getting those totally switched up today. We're the predator to them. And so horses are constantly watching our movements, but they also feel a lot about what we feel. And so what I've noticed with clients is if they are very anxious and they're very nervous, well, the horses then reflect that to the client or the patient that we're working with. So right now, we are utilizing the arena in that aspect right now. So we have someone that travels from the Princeton area that deals with chemical dependency. So they're inpatient patients, and they come to our facility and they receive treatment. Right now, we're working on a contract with Glen Oaks Hospital. And so the ones that are in outpatient treatment will walk over to our facility and actually participate in equine assisted therapy. So after they're in inpatient, they go outpatient, and then they come to us. And so what the dynamic is that, to give you an example, they are provided a huge obstacle, okay? And they have a pole that's set up off the ground. If you've ever seen poles in an arena, like if you get 2 buckets and you set them up and you put a pole on it and you try to get the horse to jump it. So instead of, if you were to go somewhere to watch an event where horses are jumping over poles, you usually see a rider on them, right? Typically. And so instead of putting a rider on them, no one gets on top of our horses during equine therapy. It's only grooming, touching, it is no riding. Everything's groundwork. So I would go to these patients or clients, and I would say, I need you to get the horse that's over 2,000 pounds and has a mind of its own with no halter, and I need you to get the horse to go and jump over that in a huge arena. Most people do exactly what you just did. Like, how am I going to do that? So they have to work as a team to figure out how they're going to get that horse to jump over that pole and not run in the arena. It's very, very difficult. We've had patients actually do it, and it took a lot of teamwork. But we reflect to them, okay, I can see right now that you're thinking you can't get that done. Or if you hear them saying, all right, what are we going to do? You can pick up that maybe that person's not necessarily a leader. And how does that work in your everyday life? Are you not a leader in your everyday life? Or if you see someone struggle and they give up, well, it didn't work the first time. And not go back and say, all right, now let's regroup. Why didn't that work? You see them, so then you identify to them, well, it looks like, do you give up quite easy? Like, how does that reflect in your everyday life? Do you typically do that? Do you have an obstacle put in front of you, maybe at work, and then you just give up? And so it's that true reflection, and you can kind of pick up even from the horses. If they're frustrated, the horse is frustrated as well. And so you can see them run off. And it's like, well, why do you think the horse ran off? How many people run away from you in your everyday life? Because you have anxiety, and you are feeling, that horse is feeling what you feel. So that's kind of a general idea of what equine assisted therapy is. And if y'all have any questions, please interrupt me and ask. We have a total of 7 horses right now that we rotate. They rotate them every day so that they're not overused. So the mental health clinic doesn't just do equine assisted therapy though. We work with children from as long as they can comprehend and play, because we do a lot of play therapy where they actually play with items inside their in a play room, and they can identify things and kind of discuss things as they play, so it distracts them, and so they're easily able to talk about some hard things maybe that they couldn't just do. If you put a 4-year-old kid in front of me and I start saying, how do you feel about that? They don't know their feelings. They don't know how to express that. So we use play therapy. We also work with family counseling as a group, individual, all the way into what we call geriatrics. A lot of couple therapy. Every type of therapy that you can think of, we do it.
Even PTSD?
We definitely deal with PTSD. We have a counselor that actually deals with military primarily. And so I can get into that a little bit. I'm sorry, my ears are a little bothering me from all the rain that came in. Sorry. We have what we call neurofeedback, bioneurofeedback. So the best way I can describe that for you to understand is, have you ever seen where they put probes on your head, like mad scientist kind of stuff? You go in and they put probes on your head, and it actually looks at your brain waves. And you watch a program like Leave It to Beaver, if that's your favorite TV show. You watch just a regular TV show, and it actually retrains your brain how to think. So a lot of people with sleeping disorders, memory loss, ADHD, it teaches your brain how to refocus. Instead of immediately going to a doctor and putting you on medication, you can actually go through this process, and it takes between 10 to 20 plus times to do it, but it can retrain your brain to operate at its full capacity. You'd be surprised how many people don't use their brain at a full capacity. I could probably say that for myself. We do that as well, and they actually, she does brain mapping, where you actually can see all the chemicals in your brain, and you can see possibly like for an adolescent, someone that doesn't know their history as far as genetically having schizophrenia, having a case of possibly going into a depression, all that can be picked up prior to that child actually having to experience it. So that's very interesting as well. A lot of the adults do that. Yes, ma'am.
I've had brain remapping for multiple sclerosis.
Very good.
Very long time it took, but it worked.
It worked.
It did.
It's amazing what it
It's
can do.
the idea on what I was told was they were going to allow me to use a different part of my brain for the things that weren't functioning.
Functioning correctly.
And you notice I didn't walk in here with a walker or a cane.
Right. There's not enough research, they say, to be able to say that is what it's used for. Like ADHD, they can't say that's exactly what it's used for, but you gave a great scenario that it's used for a variety of things. It makes your brain kind of re-trigger or reroute of where it needs to go.
And stimulated.
Stimulates, yep. A lot of people sleep a whole lot better than I after they do it. I don't know if you experienced that or not. One of the things that we just started is we do what we call game time. And so it's a new way for kids to get together, and we go on a Wednesday afternoon and they actually play games. And through that they work through therapy and teamworking and self-esteem and stuff like that as they're playing a game. So we started that, Nate Brindley does that. And then we also have our military and veterans program. It is every other week. We do a family session where the families of the veterans and the veteran come out and do equine assisted therapy. And then we also have a time where just the person is there for the equine assisted therapy without the family. So that is a new program that we started.
Are you guys working with,
Twin Rotors, yes, we are. And they have received a lot of funding and things like that to assist with the military, so that it doesn't cost them anything. They come to our facility and receive treatment for free. So we'll flip to the arena if y'all would like to do that now. So our arena was quite small when we first started out in 2020. It was not supposed to be as big as it is or as big as it's going to be. We were going to use it for equine assisted therapy and probably some like horsemanship clinics. But after 2020 and we realized we're doing more through the computer counseling, we weren't having people come into our office. It was like we have to generate some type of other business to supplement. And so we extended our arena so that we could do things like barrel racing, sorting competitions, and also ropings. So a lot of people, I have to explain what some of that stuff is. And so sorting is actually getting cattle and pinpointing one out of a herd, and you have to get that animal over. Well, they actually put numbers on the animals, the cows. So to say, I want you to start with number 5 and work your way all the way back to number 1. And they have to purposely go and pick those numbers out in sequence. So that is part of a competition. And then we have barrel racers. They actually run around barrels and they compete that way. And then we have ropings. Right now we don't have chutes, but we're getting those. We're actually extending our arena for the 4th time to add the chutes because it needs to be a little bit longer. So we're going to accommodate that and do that. So if you can, a long triangle, you have the actual clinic in the very front for the mental health, and then you have the arena, the indoor arena, which is climate controlled, so heat and air. And then there's an open area where it's like a practice pen, which is quite large. And then on the very back of that, we are going to have an outdoor arena. It won't be covered, but it'll be another full arena. So it is growing quick. We do have some interesting events that come up throughout the year. We have the circus that comes out, and it's called the Extreme Circus. And so it's not like circus with animals. It's actually if you've ever walked by or come by the arena and there's a huge ball, and it's like a huge dome, I guess you could say, they get motorcycles or I'm sure there's another word than a motorcycle, but they go in circles all the way around and fly up in the air and things that I would never do or let my children do. It's scary. We have, this month we have a donkey basketball, which I'm super excited about. I think that will be hilarious. But that's going to raise awareness for colon cancer. And people rent out our arena for those type of events, but they also have weddings in our arena. They've had conferences and things like that as well. So it's very broad, what we've done as far as like clinics and shows, but people come and rent our arena for a lot of different reasons. So that's what we are in kind of a little nutshell. Do y'all have any questions?
Do you have to have a referral to be able to come and be a part of the therapy?
No. No, you can call us directly. We do have some insurances that we do accept, but we also take cash.
Why do you choose not to use the horses for someone to be on the horse and benefit from the
There's a different
horse to walk and to
right. There's a different type of therapy where you use a horse for your own motor skills. So someone that is wheelchair bound or have another mental infraction of some sort, that is for riding. It's for your joints and it's to move and it's to do those things. We're just not specialized in that, and so we use our horses for the therapy part. When you're using a horse for therapy and you're watching the reflection, it's hard to do that from the saddle, I guess you could say, because they are reflecting your energy. And so if you come and you're very high, anxious and have anxiety, that horse is going to feel that as well. So just for safety purposes, it's best to keep it on the ground. Yeah. But I love the idea of possibly doing that one day for more of just the joints and the movements of particularly kids. Of course, that's where our heart and passion.
particularly health benefits people that were having hip problems, that riding on a horse was very
It does help.
beneficial
Right.
on the movement, and I just wondered why there was a reason that you didn't use it in the
Primarily
children's
our-
therapy of horse. I had just heard so much
Yeah.
about that.
We have our primary focus is the brain, I guess you could say, versus the outer body. Doesn't mean that that's not something that they wouldn't look into. I've learned through the 2 years that I've worked with them, they're very open-minded to, thank goodness, right? Because we've expanded so much and done different things, but they're very open to how they can help the community. Especially, with Dr. Ruth, it's all about how can we do a full wraparound service for someone? How can we provide everything we can right here? So, any other questions?
I'm glad she asked that question because I caught that when you said it as well. And, but my question is, if the entrance to your place is facing north, so from which side of the building is the new outdoor arena going?
It's going to be on the south side.
That would be the opposite end of the
Yes.
entrance.
Yes.
Okay, not to one of the others.
Right, and so all of the side that's closest to the interstate will be
Okay.
parking,
Oh, okay.
and there are some corrals there, so that people that are traveling, they can call up and say, hey, I need a layover for a night, and they can keep their horses there, and we have hookups. We don't have a dump station, but we have hookups.
She's just named another purpose of the building.
I mean, if we
So
can.
you haven't even talked to us about all the purposes yet.
Yes,
huh?
so there are times where that we get calls that they need a layover. We're right on the interstate, so it helps them not have to travel so far off of the interstate to get a layover. So
Did you talk about that already? Where is it? It's on the interstate. Where?
yes, so if you were traveling towards Silver Springs from here, it's on the right-hand side We're directly across from Glen Oaks Hospital.
Oh,
That huge
yeah.
peach pink building. I can't decide if it's pink or if it's peach, but it's in between the two.
So you know where that hospital is?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Right off Division Street.
Yeah, it was vacant land for a long time.
We do have the sign in, it's just getting it up right now. So we have a huge LED sign that will be there to display us and tell all about our services too. So everyone passing through will be able to know what we are and what we offer. So,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, you didn't talk about business hours or visitation, or, you know, people who are not horse people coming or
Sure.
anything.
for the arena, it's open, I'd say until midnight sometimes. It just depends on the event itself. If we have a show on the weekend, they just keep going until they're able to get everything completed. But our hours for the mental health clinic, it ranges as well because we want to offer services that, you know, people that work or kids that need to be in school and not be pulled out, they have time to do that. So we have counselors that work from 8 o'clock and then we have some that come in after 5 and they work until 9 or 10 o'clock at night.
Okay, that's what I need.
All of our groups are in the afternoons, it's not during the day. So our military services are offered for the equine therapy in the evening, along with the game that I told you about, kids coming and playing games and working through some things. That's in the evening as well, so we get more participation that way.
Do you, the residents over at Reno, are they interacting with other people that come in for the equine therapy?
No, we are very big about anytime we have a group, anytime we have anything from the mental health side, the arena's shut down because they're in it, so that it's kept confidential.
Gotcha.
Anyone that comes, we don't want any outsiders coming in to be able to say or make the patients or clients feel uncomfortable, so that they are able to freely vocalize whatever issues that they've got going on without someone just walking in on them.
Well, just curiosity, do you ever just board somebody's horses that they need to be kept somewhere for?
No, because we're not able to offer 24-hour service.
Okay.
Um,
That was a curiosity.
I get that
on
question
my
all the
part.
time. So yeah, because we do have the stalls and things like that, but we don't have the manpower for that. No. So, any other questions?
Well, it's nice to have it in Greenville and not having heard any more about it. I've passed it and wondered what,
What it
you
was?
know.
Yes.
There's been times that there's been, might be 5 or 6 RVs that are parked there and everything, you know, and I wondered if that was
Like an RV station?
You know, I mean, what was that they had picked there to be, or if there was something going on that people came in there to stay. And I passed it so many, every time the way I come, I always, to get here, I have to go that way and over the overpass to get there. And I see it and I always think, well,
What is
I'd like
that?
to know a little more about that.
Well, so we did have our sign ordered in 2020 to get here. However, it was stuck in China of all places.
All those, yeah, a lot of things were.
It was stuck with COVID.
But I think that's
we
affected
are-
all of us.
It is, but we're gonna get it, and we've gotten it here, and it's gonna go up, and so there will be a lot more people that will know about it. But we do have a website. We're big on Facebook, so I'll get you some information on that so that y'all can follow our events if you wanted to, and see what we've got going on. So we'll get that to you for sure. But yes, there are times where I go to work, and there are so many trailers there. They can't park either. I'll just tell you, it's very difficult to find a parking spot with all those trailers.
You just made a thought, a question come to my mind is, were you involved with horses prior to you choosing this career?
Me, myself?
Me, yourself?
Okay, so my story is that I was raised by an ag teacher. And so from the time that I was little, I was in agriculture. It is very unique. I will say, I told Dr. Whiteley, I don't know how other than God that we were put together. Because I work for juvenile probation and I would refer my kids over for her to do counseling. And one summer she came to me and she said, I have a vision, I have a dream, and I need you to help me. I was like, okay, well, what are we doing? She said, I want you to get your kids that are on probation, a group of them, and I want you to bring them out to my home, and I want you to do equine assisted therapy with me. I was like, all right, I gotta know a little bit more about that. And you want them to come where? Like, these are kids that are delinquent, they're on probation. And she said, I really want this. I said, okay. So we loaded up. I was the intensive supervisor of kids on probation, and so I had the worst of the worst, the ones that were falling in between the cracks, as you could say. And I was told by Judge Bench, save them, make sure they don't go to prison. And so this was like, all right, Judge, well, I need to do equine assisted therapy. And he was like, what is that? I don't think so. I was like, so I ripped him into it a little bit. And that was a part of their community service. And they were very, I'm not going to do this. Yeah, you are. Or you're going to go to jail. And so, okay, we'll go work with horses. And they didn't, at first, they were just like, well, I'm here, but I'm not doing anything. You know, I'm too big, I'm too bad for this. They got involved in it, and at the end of a 6-week taking them out there, they were like, "That's my horse. Get away from my horse. You know, that one, that one's mine." And they learned that they were followers and leaders, and I bought into it after that. And so that's how Dr. Whiteley and I met. And then I went over to Glen Oaks Hospital. And during that time frame, I talked to one of the CEOs and I said, this would be amazing for our patients. And each time, it's like you had to get them to buy into it, to understand it, because you're talking about people that are from Illinois and Tennessee and cities, and they're looking at a horse going, no way, that's not going to work. With patients, why would you do that? And so it's really talking them into it, letting them see it. And so she bought the land beside us. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. So we got a contract when I worked at Glen Oaks, and we started doing that with our patients that were suffering with chemical dependency. And so then a new CEO came in, and that contract ended. And so Dr. Whiteley, and I had to call her, and I said, Dr. Whiteley, I'm so sorry, but we're having to break that contract. And she said, well, that's terrible news. But that's great news for me, because now I can ask you if you'd like to come and work for me. Oh. I was like, okay. And she said, we are expanding, and we're building, and so because of that, I need you to come and get people to come and refer to me. I'm gonna need more business, and I need you to market for me. And so it was a great transition, and for my agriculture background, and then me having a social work degree and what I do, it just collided and it created something amazing. So it was really good. It's still a good fit for sure.
Thank you. It's good to know the person that you're listening to.
Yeah. So yes, I've been around animals. I say it's genetic because my dad instilled that into me.
And back when we could go to court, now I remember seeing your head in the courtroom, especially Judge Bench's office.
What has been your success rate?
For which side? Look, I mean, we have sometimes a 3-month waiting list. Dr. Whiteley specializes in child and adolescent, and she specializes in court services. She's amazing on the witness stand. There's never a short supply as far as what service that she offers. She's amazing.
What I mean is, okay, so usually how many weeks is your therapy last?
Oh, that's what I'm saying.
So for which therapy?
Well, a while ago you said chemical dependency.
So our chemical dependency with our equine assisted therapy, it typically, they are only inpatient for a month, and they can possibly get 5 to 6 weeks, but that's primarily because of insurance and payments and things like that. So we rotate them. But so it just kind of depends on what they're coming for. But if we receive someone off the street, it's really based off of the counselors.
Okay, so after so many weeks, how do you test or how do you determine this has actually helped them?
Well, it depends. Of course, it would have to, for chemical dependency, it would be the relapse if they have or haven't. You know, in the world of chemical dependency, you're always in sobriety,
Yes.
right? You're always an addict. And so it's a it would be hard to know because we don't get the information from the facility that sends over to us.
Okay, so-
But what I would say is that I've never had anyone go through therapy and on their last visit say, I don't want to go to equine assisted therapy, it's not helping me. So I would refer back to that and say that it's been consistent that because they don't have to come to us, they don't have to participate, but each time they do.
Well, see, I'm a veteran and I've been diagnosed with severe anxiety. It's almost to the point of PTSD, but they just not that I'm not there yet. But hopefully I never will be. But just say somebody with PTSD or somebody with what I have, what kind of success rate and what can consider success as far as how so many weeks of working with these animals?
As far as the success rate with the equine assisted therapy in the veterans or PTSD, again, this veterans program has been now for 3 months. The hardest that, how do I say this? Men don't really like to get help. Is that the best way to put it? Or to say that I need help, especially some of the veterans. I'm trying to figure out what that would. I understand why, but how to get them to still come into our doors, and to be consistently coming, because it is already free and it's paid for. Sometimes they don't. They come. Sometimes they only come with their families. Sometimes they only come individually. And so it's really kind of hard to determine that because it has been a shorter period of time. But I would have to probably refer back to the statistics of just the equine assisted therapy overall. It's been successful, or we wouldn't be doing it.
Well, I know with dogs and cats, they've proven that it lowers your blood pressure when you're around them. It gives you a sense of euphoria in some certain situations, whatever. So that's why I was kind of curious. I mean, we're talking about an animal that weighs 1,200 to 2,000 pounds. How does someone that could be afraid of the animal get used to it enough to where you can get them to work with them to a point where there is a success rate? That's why I'm kind of curious.
Sure, our horses are very docile. If they don't meet our requirements as far as, I'd say calm, they're not fresh off the farm, I guess you could say. They're not green, where they've never been saddled or they've never been worked with. They're worked with every day. So the difference between a dog is exactly what you said. They are very small. Some people are very afraid of dogs, so it could boost their anxiety as well if they've had a negative or bad experience. There is a lot to take away from an animal that is so large and has so much of a presence that it does make you somewhat look smaller. It feels smaller, and that there's dominant. But they don't feel that. A horse doesn't feel that they're dominant over you, and instead, they're looking for you to tell them what to do. So that dynamic is so different. A lot of your pet therapy is, I'm having, like play therapy, I'm having that animal distract me and calm me. Where we utilize obstacles or things that they have to do together for a reflective type response. So there's a lot of processing. I've identified this in you while working with the horse when it did this. Why did you do that? And do you do that in your normal day life? Or how does that distract you from becoming sober or staying sober, things like that. But our horses, of course, they are large animals. And a lot of people are intimidated at first, but once they see that they are working together, instead of just when I'm having to get this to do it, or they're helping each other. Again, a lot of it is that reflective, being able to identify something in that person and say, did you know that about yourself? Because just like my kids that were on probation, they were big, bad, tough, I'm gonna, cut your throat if I have to, right? They learned that through the therapy that they were not leaders because they could not make a decision. And when they did make a decision, it never worked out for them. The horse was just like, not doing it. Where a dog, they felt more in control, right? So if I would have used a dog and they could have controlled that dog, they would have felt that presence, right? But utilizing the horse in that aspect with the kid, they realized that they can't push the horse. They can't, scare the horse over that, but they were scared. And they could be forced to do something if the horse made them do it. So that's kind of the difference. So it's to me, when utilizing a dog or cat, it's really playing and distracting them to be able to talk without knowing that they're talking about something that's hurt them or affected their lives. Where horses, we're utilizing that to make them see things in themselves that they may not have ever seen, and to process with them, what does that look like? How do you do that every day? Because many times they don't even realize that they're doing it, or how much they depend on other things. So it's really unique, very, very neat to watch. So, any other questions?
So you started out doing it, but now you're marketing, is that what you're saying? And you're no longer working with the clients?
So I was a juvenile
Patients.
probation officer, and so I would take clients to her,
Yeah.
and they would work
Oh,
together.
okay, gotcha.
I would be that, if you don't do it, I'm gonna handcuff you and take you to jail.
Yeah.
Yeah, forced it,
Yeah.
I guess. You're
Yeah.
getting therapy kind of thing. Then I transitioned over to, I did a presentation like this for juvenile probation, and the CEO of Glen Oaks Hospital saw me do the presentation, and he said, I want you to come work for me. I mean, that's just how it worked. I was like, I don't think that would be a good idea, but then I did. I worked there for 7 years, and then because of those relationships and how it kind of was a triangle working together, I went and worked with Dr. Whiteley. But when I worked at Glen Oaks, it was marketing. It was getting up and talking and creating brochures, things like that. And so that's what I do for Dr. Whiteley.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
We're glad to have you in Greenville. Helping, so.
Absolutely. We love it.
Great, thank
you.
you.
This video has been brought to you by GEUS 34. GEUS is your community-owned provider for electric, internet, cable TV, and true local programming.